What an amazing 2 days. I would like to thank His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and His Excellency Yasser Al Rumayyan for their vision to bring together the unprecedented collection of thinkers to share their visions for a better future. And what a panel we have. Aron, CEO of AMC Entertainment, the largest movie theater operator in the world. Robert Kyncl, Chief Business Officer of YouTube. And Bob Simonds, Chairman and CEO of Eros STX Global Corporation, perhaps the world's first truly entertainment studio. Let's talk about the future of entertainment. The COVID-19 pandemic closed movie theaters worldwide and locked us at home with our smart devices. US box office revenues in 2020 dropped to just $2.2 billion, down from $11.4 billion in 2019. Netflix, Amazon, Apple TV Plus, Disney Plus, HBO Max, and Saudi powerhouse Shahid became our daily companions. Prior to the pandemic, global revenues generated from movie theater releases hovered around $40 billion annually. By the end of 2020, subscription streaming services generated $50 billion in global revenue with 880 million users. By 2025, streaming entertainment services are projected to grow to 1.4 billion users and generate $85 billion in revenue. While studios generally split theatrical box office revenue 50-50 with movie theater chains, they keep the majority of money generated from streaming services. The pandemic has affected all of your businesses. Adam, the New York Times just profiled you as the savior of the movie theater industry. You've just raised $1.8 billion in equity and debt since December. Tell us what this journey has been and how you're preparing for the future.
Well, that's quite an introduction, Sandy, and journey it has been. I want to take you back in time to February 23 of 2020 as CEO of AMC with theaters in the US, Europe, and of course in Saudi Arabia. We got word that 5 of our theaters in Milan were going to be shut because of the COVID virus. 5 theaters out of 1,000. And when we got that news, we thought, oh, that's a shame. How long are they going to be closed? And the local authorities said, about 7 days. Within 3 weeks, all 1,000 of our theaters in 15 countries on 3 continents were closed. And they basically stayed closed for 5 months. But even when we reopened them, there were no movies to play because major studios delayed the release of almost all the major titles that were coming. So my company, which had $5.5 billion of revenue annually, suddenly had no revenue at all, none. And that put our company in a great degree of stress. We burned through a lot of cash. Obviously, we reduced expenses as aggressively as we possibly could. But the name of the game has been wait for the world to recover. Our hope in March was going to be the world would recover in June. Then we hoped the world would recover in August. Then we hoped the world would recover in November. Then we hoped the world would recover in January. Now we're hoping the world will recover in May. The difference now is that the vaccine is real. Vaccinations have started. And so this time, I think we can be optimistic that somewhere between May and July, major studios are going to release big major movie titles, and our theaters, which actually have been open since September and very safely, I might add. Our health protocols have been superb, but we're optimistic that recovery is right around the corner.
Bob, you and I share the vision that storytelling bridges cultures, and it is the hope for the future and bringing people together. You're building the global studio of the future, but we're also at a time where the models are changing, the business is changing. Can you sort of look at how audience behavior is changing, how the COVID has impacted the decisions as to how people will see entertainment in the future, and perhaps whether or not Universal, AT&T, HBO Max have made the right decisions in how they've balanced theatrical releases with premiering on streaming services.
Thanks, Sandy. And Adam, Robert, it's good to see you guys. You know, it's interesting because it's tough to take something that's been so traumatic and difficult as this pandemic has been for so many people and say that some really good things have come of it. But at least in terms of how our business model has been pushed forward and accelerated, that's absolutely what's happened. You know, we have in India, I've got a partner named Kishore Lula. We have the biggest Bollywood library and one of the fastest growing streaming platforms. Obviously, the pandemic has accelerated that subscriber base pretty dramatically. And on the legacy STX business, you know, we make, market, and distribute films, predominantly mid-budget, star-driven films with global appeal. And we've had to change our model more quickly than we had planned. That's put us in a very interesting sort of, we have less risk and more profit than we had planned on. So to take a step back, what we do on the legacy STX side is we make, market, and distribute films, which means that we put it through Adams theaters in the US and frankly in another 150 different countries. And then each film has a waterfall of different streams, and each revenue stream has discrete economics. Given the fact that some of the theaters have been closed, we've rejiggered that and found that by reordering that sequencing, and in some places where we couldn't go to theaters, we find that we're doing a lot of business with Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, etc. And I do think that whenever this comes back, these learnings are going to continue forward.
Bob, you know, it's funny. When I think about what I'm watching and the fact that 70% of Netflix productions outside the US and that Lupin is a hit series in the US with new stars, comes out of France, how are you thinking about where audience taste is going? I think we're seeing better writing than we've ever seen, or certainly the expectation of it from audiences.
Well, that's a really important point. So, you know, from our standpoint, you'd asked what these other guys are doing, like the guys at AT&T. You know, they've taken their slate and they put the whole thing on HBO Max. You know, those are truly some of the smartest guys on the planet, and the problems they're trying to solve for are 5G rollout and building out a competitor to Amazon and Netflix and HBO Max. We're doing something very different, which is we are in competition for the best storytellers and the biggest stars, making the most compelling product we can at the right budget, because this is a business. And in doing that, you know, we find that each market has different stars and different storytellers, and anything we can do to attract those sort of storytellers in those markets that speak to those cultures is ultimately what we're focusing our energy on.
Robert, I cannot tell you how grateful we all are for what YouTube has done. It has democratized access to entertainment. When I was at CAA, if you were a young filmmaker and you wanted an agent or anyone to see what you did, it was such a closed club. And you have made that club global. And you are the quintessence of an open platform versus the closed platforms that Bob was just talking about. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, the difference between open platforms, closed platforms, and now with everybody locked at home creating, which to me is always amazing, what you've seen during the pandemic and what you see coming after the pandemic?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we've seen, just like everyone else, we've seen tremendous acceleration of consumption on our platform. And the difference for us is that, as you said, we are an open one, which means anyone can publish. And really, we've been sort of pushing this model for 15 years, and had tremendous amount of success with lots of content creators who have built sizable businesses on our platform. But what we've seen this year happen is, as everyone shut down, suddenly everybody in the creative space became a YouTube star. They became YouTube creator. And what it meant was, imagine late night talk show hosts on television suddenly couldn't be in their studios. So they started to do exactly what YouTube creators have been doing for the last 10, 15 years, set up their workflows with their teams for pre-production, post-production, writing, etc. Everything done online through online tools. And suddenly all of them started to do exactly what YouTube creators have been doing for a long time. And by the way, to great success. We've worked with most of them, and we've seen this trend of sort of self-reliance and the ability to publish from anywhere at a high quality resonate tremendously with audiences. So that was on the entertainment front. And then obviously during the time of COVID, a lot of people are coming to platforms like YouTube to look for authoritative sources of information or medical information, learning, etc., because suddenly they're at home and they have more time to spend on the platform. So we've decided to stand up a vertical focused on medical information, led by National Health Services or Public Health Services Dr. Garth, and we work with organizations such as the World Health Organization and NHS in the UK and CDC in the US and every equivalent in every country, to make sure that we're linking to their websites and that we're providing more and more authoritative information from those sources. The last element that I want to mention that happened this year was the tremendous rise of education on YouTube, as families, kids, and their parents were at home. There was a lot of focus on online education, and a lot of folks were coming to YouTube for it. So we also have we've had for a long time a vertical focused on it, but we're investing even more into it following this year.
So, it's funny, when I've talked with Garth Graham, and Dr. Graham is leading that charge on the medical side, but also in terms of education, just a thought. Obviously, these now are using the tools of entertainment to bring forward a higher engagement in healthcare and in education. I mean, what are you seeing in with regard to that? And what kind of new skills do people need?
Yeah, so if you talk to Dr. Garth, as we all call him, what he's really focused on is making sure that wide audiences are receiving this information and they want to watch it, which means it has to be engaging. So it is actually very important to do what you mentioned, which is that you bring the tools of entertainment and personalities of entertainment and partner them together with medical experts. And that's actually what we've been focusing on this past year. But we just want to make sure that people listen to medical experts, and we'll do whatever it takes to achieve that. And the avenue to that is entertainment and bringing trusted entertainment figures to do so for different audiences. So we're having a lot of fun with it. It's very important, very serious, but it's important to make it very digestible for people.
So we're nearing the end of the panel, and what I'd like to do, because we have what I would think is like 12,000, a gargantuan audience of those watching us around the world that have been gathered here. So in a sentence, could you do two things? One, 5 years from now, what do you think your business will look like? And what area of investment would you most recommend people look at as something to think about for the next few years to invest in? Adam?
In one sentence, 5 years from now, I envision billions of movie tickets being sold around the world in movie theaters, just as this has been the case for the past 115 years. As for investment, I'll tell you where my money is. I'm invested in AMC. I believe in our future.
All right, Bob and Robert, 30 seconds each. Go for it.
So I think it's going to be massive consolidation, particularly with the streamers. And the differentiating factor of who wins and who doesn't win is going to be who makes the most compelling must-see content. And there's going to be a fierce battle over the time and talent of the people who make it.
I think it will be online commerce tied to video platforms, where all the amazing creators that I just mentioned will sell their own products or other brands' products. But it's basically democratization of retail through online video platforms.
Everyone who is watching, go to AMC theaters, watch Bob Simonds productions, and you should all be auditioning on YouTube for your next future in entertainment. I want to thank the FII for bringing us all together for this discussion of the future of entertainment.